Volus. Adventure level, not available. Elf. Kekenian. Madam Volus, a letter has come for you. The innkeeper greeted me. She disappeared behind the counter and popped back up holding an envelope. Thank you, I replied, as I retrieved it from her. You're welcome. Have a restful stay. I nodded absent-mindedly as I checked the seal on the envelope. The Maxim family's crest. A unified chieftain-style full-plate helmet with twin axes crossed below it stared up at me from its waxy abode. I rushed to my room and broke the seal, impatiently pulling the letter from its envelope. I stared at it for a moment, almost afraid to read it. This type of communication was fairly new to me, and I'd never written a letter directly to Lord Maxim before. My nerves nearly got the better of me, as I wondered if I had followed all of the proper conventions correctly. Then there was the matter of the content of the letter I had sent. I'd written to Lord Maxim whilst I was still unsure about Lord Vyslmiro. The many classes I've attended since have revealed the lich to be both kind and compassionate. I'm not even hesitant to admit that I have grown to both like and admire him. I had been sure to include Lord Vyslmiro's account of what happened to him, but what if Lord Maxim doesn't believe it? What if my benefactor and master orders me to do something? Or worse, what if this letter is informing me that he is taking action himself? What if I have severely inconvenienced both Lord Maxim and Lord Vyslmiro due to my ignorance? My heart thudding in my chest, I began to read. My most loyal Volus, I am pleased to hear from you, though I had not expected a letter this soon. You were right to write, though. This is a rather unusual situation, and I do not fault you for seeking guidance. Lord Vyslmiro's recount of what happened to him is heartbreaking, and insofar as I can attain, potentially true. There is a record of his father growing ill of mind in his latter years, and according to all official historical texts that I could find, he simply disappeared. There was, however, a much maligned account that matched Lord Vyslmiro's quite closely. It isn't included in official accounts because it was believed to be anti-magic propaganda. I breathed a sigh of relief, then chided myself. Of course Lord Maxim would do his research before coming to a decision. He has a strict morality, but one does not become the head of a powerful clan by being unreasonable and ignorant. I should have done my own research on the matter before bothering my master with this. For context, this alleged propaganda was penned by Lord Vyslmiro's own mother, Princess Yalencia Vyslmiro. By all other accounts, she doted on her son, and despised her husband's obsession with magic. Whether or not she loved Imlor the Grand is actually a matter of debate amongst historians, because of the various incidents in which they fought regarding magic. There were also various incidents in which she protested, sometimes violently, matters involving magic. The deployment of the magic cart saw her physically attack someone. Another person who suggested building a magic research center received a box full of feces from her. And she even threatened the Grand Mage of Calcutta with bodily harm when she suggested continuing Imlor the Grand's research. There are many more incidents, all of which paint Lady Vyslmiro as being staunchly opposed to magic, or at least the advancement thereof. I felt a pang of empathy for my teacher. His mother had hated magic, and his father had become obsessed with it. Even if they were both loving and doting parents, which seems unlikely given how things ended up with his father, it must have been difficult being raised in the midst of such animosity. What could have brought Lord Vyslmiro's parents together in the first place? Was it a young love that turned sour with age? A marriage of convenience? Politics? I doubt I'll ever find out. The historical record indicates that Lord Vyslmiro suffered a massive decrease in reputation when it became known that he had become a lich. His various guild memberships were revoked, his Kuragard identification was smelted, and he was banished from no less than 6 realms. As such, when Lady Vyslmiro published her account of what happened to her son, it was widely believed that she was attempting to salvage her son's reputation whilst simultaneously damaging her husband's and spreading her anti-magic beliefs. Having read her account and your letter, I would agree with the experts that she was attempting to spread an anti-magic sentiment. However, Lord Vyslmiro's reputation prior to these events was serene. Better, dare I say, than even his father's. Surviving records of that period show him performing acts of unreasonable charity, healing all he could without regard for reward.
He even went out of his way to teach as many as he could the healing arts, so that people could live in health when he moved on from an area. When one also considers his relative youth, it seems extremely odd and unlikely that he would suddenly turn to lichdom. This period of history is now considered to be, frankly, quite dramatic. Without boring you with the details, one would imagine that newsprinters were struggling to pick which event should appear on any given day's headline. As such, it can reasonably be assumed that tempers were flared, and many of those involved reacted to what happened to Lord Vyslmiro without fully thinking things through. With the benefit of a cool mind and hindsight, I find credence in Lord Larry Vyslmiro's account. It is my belief that High Chief Ulamak likely has come to the same conclusion.
I breathed another sigh of relief. Leave it to my master to perform a full analysis of the situation before coming to a conclusion. I had been wrong to be nervous about his reaction, and chided myself for it once again. Blessed be I to have one with such a keen mind to seek guidance from. Then I glanced at the next few lines of the letter, and cringed.
That being said, you're in a better position for analysis than I. A lich is a terrifyingly powerful being, whose form is quite intimidating to most mortals. I ask of you, my dearest servant, is it possible that your reservations are due to the nature of his existence, rather than his actions or words? If you conclude this to be the case, and have made a public display, I urge you to issue an apology as soon as you can. If, however, you have reasonable cause for your concerns, I would have you send me the full details of these concerns, which I will then bring to the High Chief's attention. Study well. Lord Alvintus Maxim.
Yes, my lord, I muttered to myself. I had no reason to doubt Lord Vyslmiro, other than those forced upon me by my overdependence on the written words of others. Gods, I'm a fool. I leaned back in my chair and played with my hair. With some careful prodding over the course of many classes, we had revealed that Lord Vyslmiro was in search of a way to escape his fate. The human had already known this, but it came as a revelation to Earl, Near, and myself. Those who would choose lichdom over mortality wouldn't see it as a curse. They would already know about what would happen to their physical form, and would have already chosen to make their sacrifice for the power that comes with it. Lord Vyslmiro's desire to become mortal again was revealed to us with such conviction that it was impossible to doubt, and in turn it confirmed his victimhood. For me, at least. I sat back up and set the letter down, only to discover 2 more sheets of paper tucked behind it.
Postscript. Lady Ilana would like to remind you to both eat and sleep in sufficient quantity. She is stricken with recollections of finding you unconscious in the library, and worries that you may be missing meals. I have done what I can to dissuade these concerns, but it would be appreciated if your next letter would indicate that you are taking care of yourself in this regard. The lady additionally demands that I clarify that you must be honest with your assurances.
Lady Ilana's concern for my well-being brought a sad smile to my face. Even her position as the wife of one of the most powerful orcs in the land couldn't dissuade her fussy nature. If anything, it enabled it further, allowing her to act as a mother to all who would put up with it. I brought my attention to the second slip of paper. Postscript. Little Dennis would like to extend the offer of swordsmanship training in exchange for magical tutelage upon your return. As you are aware, he has only just begun his own training, but his instructor indicates that he's quite skilled. By the time you take your new post, this may be a fair offer. Of course, you may accept or decline at your discretion. For the sole sake of your awareness, should you decline, he will likely counteroffer with a bribe of sweets. He has haggled a deal with a local confectioner that sees him receiving free sweets in exchange for an endorsement amongst his friends. His tutor is having him run extra laps with this in mind. Tears rolled down my cheeks and I stifled a sob. My studies and worries had distracted me from how much I miss everyone back home. The message from Little Dennis had been quite the blow. I had been present at his birth, and tended to Lady Ilana as the midwife, and had gently removed his exoskeletal growths. His siblings were much older than he, and all had their own duties that frequently took them away from the manor for extensive periods of time. Once he had learned to walk, he had taken to following the help around as they performed their tasks. When he was old enough to explain himself, he had pointed out that we were the only people around that weren't his parents. As Dennis grew older and more educated, he began to single me out. We would make small talk whilst I handled menial tasks, and he would watch closely as I performed tasks that required more attention. One day he voiced his desire to become a butler like me, and my heart had swelled with pride. However, I quickly and harshly reminded him that being a member of the Maxim clan came with its own set of responsibilities, and becoming a butler would be shirking those duties. I do not know whether it was my admonishing tone or the content of my speech, but he cried for the first time since he was a babe. From then on he opted to follow me around less and less. It's what I deserved. Deep down I had dared to imagine that we were friends, an aspiration far above my station. Furthermore, I had repaid this perceived friendship with a lecture. It was a situation that had haunted me. But now... The fact that Lady Alana and Dinas had thought to include messages to me indicates that they were thinking of me. It's easy to imagine oneself as completely expendable, even disposable, whilst in the service of one so powerful and influential. Dare I imagine, even but for a moment, that they miss me? My thoughts then turned to how they were made aware of my communication in the first place. Lord Maxim does not receive his mail announced. It is delivered to the manor and stored in his locked study, with letters of importance being given directly to him. This means that he must have told them that I had written. In a flight of fancy, I imagined the family excitedly talking about my letter at the dinner table that I had previously stood beside. I wondered if someone else was filling the void my departure had caused. Surely so, for whom else would be able to tell the waitstaff when the drinks and condiments were running low? My longing to return to my masters caused me to weep silently for a time. Once my tears ran dry and I cleared my nose, I began to write. My exhaustion faded a little as I recanted my education thus far, my perception of Lord Vyslmiro, and a paragraph about the odd human friend that I had made. I swore to Lady Ilana that I was eating and sleeping properly, and informed little Dinas that I would gladly give him lessons of magic upon my return. Then I thanked Lord Maxim for his guidance. Once the letter was finished, I took my rest. Alvintus Maxim. Adventure level, not available. Orc. Kekennen. Your mayor from the Night Kingdom brings news, my lord, sir. Langton stammered. I turned my attention to the drow, trying not to wince at his nervousness. His promotion to head of housework had been sudden, because Volos had failed to choose her replacement properly. She had not checked with those she selected, and everyone on the lists that she left me had respectfully declined. Angtin wasn't on the list, but was apparently the only member of the staff who would take the role. In hindsight, his acceptance of the role was likely caused by a fear of saying no. Father's going to give you a lecture about the honorifics, Dennis said with a grin and a wink. I shot the boy an irritated look, and he promptly turned his attention back to his food, chuckling as he ate. Alana gave me a pleading expression, as if to imply that I was about to berate my staff. In response, I held my hand to my chest to indicate that she had wounded me. Angton stammered, his normally pale complexion beginning to glow red. Sorry, Dennis speaks out of turn, I said with a small sigh. Angton, you are learning your position well, and I promise you my patience. That being said, I do bear a dislike for honorifics, so I would ask that you refrain from berating me with 2 in 1 sentence. Please. Yes, sorry, my lord. Now, what did Kymphnis have to say? Good news first, please. Well, the Night Kingdom has calmed much since his last report, my lord. Where once there were whispers of rebellion, there are now meagre mutters of dissatisfaction at minor issues. It was seen that the populace had been expecting more violence from the orcs. Angton took a breath, finally finding his spine. Also, Great Chief Eliskin has agreed to give Great Chief Tormund logging rights to a portion of the forest near Blurpus. Ah, that is good news. I have been worried that the new Great Chief would be less reasonable. Why is it such good news, father? Dennis asked with his mouth full. Swallow your food, child. We have investments in timber and lumber in Blurpus, I explained, then paused a moment. It is an industry that has unfortunately been quite stagnant as of late. One of the reasons that we have had to be tight with our purse. With this, well, we may even be able to send for Aurela. Or support her in whatever project she's found to amuse herself, since that fucking bastard stranded her. Language, dear, my wife scolded me. No swearing in front of the child. It's okay, mother, Dennis said brightly. I know not to use bad words in front of adults. Right, father?"
My son and I shared a pleased look with each other, as Ilana split a concerned expression between us. When the boy was only 5 years old, I had caught him repeating what he had heard a cook say. I had nearly admonished him, but quickly realized that he simply hadn't known what the word meant. Instead of a punishment, I decided to make a deal with him. I explained swear words as well as their proper use to him, and informed him that using them in front of adults was rude and disrespectful. However, I said that he could use them around other children, so long as he wasn't directing those words toward them. Now I had a very polite 10-year-old Mer sitting across the table from me. I couldn't help but beam with pride.
"Oh, you two,"
Ilana said sternly.
"I swear."
Dinas grinned with a flash of wit.
"But I thought you said no." "And you said it's okay."
Ilana cut him off.
"Hangton, save me from this conversation, and give my husband the rest of the news, please." "As you wish, milady," Hangton replied. "I am, uncertain whether this is good or bad news, but the wife of Great Chief Lorf would like to meet with my lord to discuss a familial bond between her youngest daughter and Lord Dinas. She has had much of the Maxim clan and is quite impressed, it seems."
"There is no point in such a discussion," I sighed. "A drow and an orc cannot bear children."
"Well, if I may, my lord, marriage and children is not what she is referring to. A familial bond is when children of the drow high society are allowed to form close friendships in the hope of becoming political allies in the future."
"I see. Well then, Dinas, shall I arrange it?" I asked. My son looked at me in shock, then quickly chewed and swallowed his food.
"I guess it never hurts to have more friends,"
he said, with a degree of befuddlement. "Very well," I nodded. "Now, I assume the reason that you're still stammering, Hangton, is that there is bad news?"
Yes, my lord."
The drow bowed.
"Though Kivnis doesn't know if this will be impactful to the clan or not, and hesitated to include it in his report. There have been reports of strange happenings from the northern villages of the Night Kingdom."
My curiosity piqued. High Chief Olamak had asked that we keep our eyes out for anything inexplicable. If this relates to the disappearing vampires, it could see us receiving a much-needed favour from him. Strange happenings?
"Yes, my lord. Most of it just seems to indicate a feeling of paranoia amongst the populace. There has been a significant increase in the amount of people being reported for suspicious activity, as well as several cases of disappearances that were resolved almost immediately after they were reported. Kivnis said that he believes this indicates that the people are jumpy about something, but there was another thing. A mass grave of small animals was discovered. Dozens of them, my lord."
I stared at the drow, perplexed. "A mass grave of small animals?" I asked. "What could possibly be the significance of that?"
"I do not know, my lord, but—" Hangton paused, biting his lip nervously. "The northern portion of the Night Kingdom tends to get quite harsh in the winter, and as such the populace is almost exclusively drow. Drow don't eat meat, my lord."
"I see," I mumbled, just as clueless as ever. "I don't like it. When Kivnis returns for his assignment tomorrow, tell him that I want to know more about these strange happenings. He will report his discovery to the High Chief's office and request some additional resources, including at least 2 additional investigators. Let us hope all this is simply cold season paranoia and a prank."
"Yes, my lord."